So, roughly 2.5 million years ago, the Earth entered an ice age. An ice age is defined as any period where there is solid ice on the planet. Prior to that, there had been no solid ice on the planet. It was a pretty warm place. The reason that happened was the raising of the Himalayas. The Indian subcontinent bumps into Asia and raises the Himalayas. And the weathering of the Himalayas draws CO2 out of the air. It's a chemical reaction with carbon dioxide dissolved in water, carbonic acid, reacting with silicon-laden rocks to create silica, which eventually finds its way to the bottom of the ocean and sits there for a good long time. So over several million years, the amount of CO2 in the air began to diminish and diminish and diminish. Now that alone probably would not have been enough, but there are two other factors here. One of them is a pure coincidence. It's not even clear if it has anything to do with it, but the timing is just so suspicious. And that is the closing of the Isthmus of Panama. That closed about 2.5 million years ago, roughly, maybe 3 million years ago, something like that. But when the Isthmus of Panama closed, it stopped, it cut the warm water connection between the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean. Now, God knows what that did to weather patterns, but it had to do something, because at the moment, from the tip of North America to the tip of South America, there is no warm water connection between those two continents, between those two oceans, only cold water. So maybe that had something to do with it, maybe not. The last factor, however, definitely does have something to do with it, and that is the shape of the Earth's orbit. The Earth's orbit becomes more circular and then more oblique and more circular and more oblique with a period of roughly 100,000 years. And it just so happens that that's lined up perfectly with the winter and the summer seasons, that during the times of high obliquity, we get a lot of ice forming on the planet, glaciations. And then once the Earth circularizes again, once the orbit circularizes again, that all reverses and you get a warm period. There have been something on the order of 50 glaciations in the last 2.5 million years. In the early days, for the first 1.5 million, they came every 50,000 years or so. So there were a lot of them back then. And then starting about 1 million years ago, they slowed down to about once every 100,000 years. The glaciations begin and they last for about 90,000 years. And then the warm period lasts about 10,000 years. Yeah, now there's a lot of variation in that. Some of the warm periods lasted 20,000 years, and some of the glaciations weren't that severe, and some of them were really severe. And a glaciation, that's something where, the northern states of the United States are under a mile of ice, and the UK and most of Northern Europe's under a mile of ice. So yeah, those are fairly significant glaciations, and then that all backs down as the Earth orbit circularizes again, and you get these nice little warm periods like the one we're living in right now. And this one's getting a little old too, so it might start getting pretty cold around here.